আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমি ডক্টর মাসুদা আক্তার, রেজিস্ট্রার পেডিয়াট্রিক ডিপার্টমেন্ট, বসুন্ধরা আদ্দিন মেডিকেল কলেজ হসপিটাল। আজকে আমরা যে বিষয়ে কথা বলতে চাচ্ছি সেটা হচ্ছে জন্ডিস। তো জন্ডিসটা কি? জন্ডিসটা হচ্ছে, জন্ডিস জানার আগে আমাদের জানতে হবে চারটা জিনিস। সেটা হলো হোয়াট ইজ হাইপারবিলিরুবিনিমিয়া, হোয়াট ইজ জন্ডিস, হোয়াট ইজ ইকটারাস অ্যান্ড হোয়াট ইজ কোলেস্টেসিস। সো ইফ দেয়ার ইজ হাইপারবিলিরুবিনিমিয়া, তখন কি আমরা জন্ডিস বলবো? হাইপারবিলিরুবিনিমিয়া যদি থাকে, এটা কি বডিতে নর্মালি থাকতে পারে? তাহলে আমরা দেখি বিলিরুবিনের স্ট্রাকচার থেকে যদি চিন্তা করি, আরবিসি লাইফ স্প্যান আমাদের হচ্ছে, আমরা জানি 120 days. Then what happened to RBC after 120 days is become destroyed automatically and evacuated from the body. So when RBC is finish their 120 days lifespan, what happened to RBC? Let's see. Here is an RBC. After 120 days it enters into the microcirculation, then into the macrophage, and there divides into hemoglobin and proteins. There are protein enzymes and membranes. So what is membrane made of? Cell membrane made of proteins and lipids mainly, and some sort of carbohydrate. So here we see when RBC breakdown occur in macrophages, hemoglobin, protein and here there will be membrane. So membrane breakdowns into protein and lipid. Lipid breakdowns into free fatty acid, protein into amino acids, and protein enzymes, they are also in protein in natures, so they also break down into amino acids. And hemoglobin, what happened to hemoglobin? We are going to search for the bilirubin, because we know that if we are saying if there is jaundice, the bilirubin level should be increased, so we are searching for bilirubin. Then hemoglobin, we know that heme, and there is heme and there is globin portion. Globin portion another again goes to the amino acid pool. And what happened to heme? Heme is protoporphyrin ring, and then heme is converted into biliverdin and iron portion. What happened to iron portion? It binds with macrophage protein called apoferritin. Apoferritin. Then it converts into ferritin. And what occurs to this ferritin? Ferritin, when there is multiple ferritin structure accumulated and bind together, and they form the hemosiderin. They form hemosiderin, and we know that hemosiderin is stored in the various organs in our blood normally, but when hemosiderin is excessive in amount, they goes to the various organ and they block their blocking there, and that condition is called hemochromatosis. When excessive hemosiderin produces sign symptoms and toxic effect to various organs, then we call it to hemochromatosis. And what happened to these biliverdin? Here an enzyme is needed which is called heme oxygenase. And heme oxygenase convert the heme portion to the biliverdin, and biliverdin then convert into bilirubin, and all this matter happens in the macrophage, not in the vascular system or intravascularly. All this happens in macrophage of the spleen, and here an enzyme is needed that is called biliverdin reductase. Then this bilirubin, which is unconjugated. Why it is unconjugated? Because we know that bilirubin conjugation occur in the liver. So it have not yet went to the liver, so it is unconjugated. Unconjugated bilirubin then goes to what? Unconjugated bilirubin goes to the circulation, then into the liver. Where in circulation unconjugated bilirubin is not remained in free form. They are bind with some plasma protein which is synthesized by liver, and here it is unconjugated bilirubin. Which is bind to the plasma protein synthesized by the liver, ultimately goes to the liver in circulation, hepatic circulation. সার্কুলেশনের মাধ্যমে আনকনজুগেটেড বিলিরুবিন লিভারে গেল। লিভারে যাওয়ার পরে কি হবে? হোয়াট হ্যাপেন্স টু দ্য লিভার? দেয়ার ইজ রিসেপ্টর ফর আনকনজুগেটেড বিলিরুবিন where it binds. Then it enters into the liver cell or hepatocyte where it became unconjugated by the help of UDPG, that is glucuronal, in short from glucuronal transferase, in endoplasmic reticulum. That one happened. Then it comes out in the biliary canaliculi, goes to the what is this? Right hepatic duct, left hepatic duct, then common hepatic duct, this is cystic duct, gallbladder, and behind the stomach it goes to the ampulla of Vater which meets with the pancreatic duct. Ampulla of Vater, there is a sphincter called sphincter of Oddi which controls this secretion of bile. So we see that here is unconjugated bilirubin, goes to the circulation, still unconjugated, uptake by the liver, then conjugation occurs, then secretion in the canalicular system, and then is ultimately goes to the, it is second part of the duodenum. So when it comes to the second part of the duodenum, is some enzymes and intestinal bacteria. It converts into urobilinogen. Urobilinogen then to stercobilinogen. but normally urobilinogen does not comes out in the stool. Stercobilinogen, then stercobilin comes out in the stool, and that is the responsible for the yellow coloration of the stool. Then what happened to urobilinogen? Urobilinogen is conjugated and is some reuptaken by the portal system from the intestine. Portal system, there is portal system, and again goes to the liver. What happened? Maximum urobilinogen reuptaken by the liver cell, and some urobilinogen comes to the circulation, go to the kidney and filtered, as it is unbound to bilirubin binding protein. That is why it is not bind to protein, so it can easily pass through the kidney. So here what happened to the, it is normal physiological process in our body, normal physiological process in our body. When there is slight rise of a normal process of physiological process in our body, so we always have some sort of bilirubin in our blood, that is roughly from 0.2 to 0.3 milligram per dl. So it is normal. When it becomes slightly raised than normal level, we called it hyperbilirubinemia, but still hyperbilirubinemia is not seen clinically. In children or neonate, we easily recognize the bilirubin level when there is more than 5 milligram, more than 5 milligram per dl. So we are talking about today jaundice in children. Jaundice in children is divided in two sections again. One we called it neonatal jaundice, neonatal, which occur from the 0 days to 28 days of life, and another is jaundice in children. There are some different kind of cause, but basic is this: when this normal physiological process occurs in excessive amount, or where there is some, due to some pathology, there is defect in this process in any of the pathway, so jaundice become, hyperbilirubinemia become more, and jaundice is recognizable clinically, then it is called jaundice. So we see that what is hyperbilirubinemia, what is jaundice, and what is icterus. Usually when jaundice is seen in the sclera clearly, so then we call it icterus. And what is cholestasis? What is cholestasis? When bilirubin level is increased, mainly unconjugated bilirubin, and there is defect in any of the pathway or in intrahepatic or extrahepatic region, so that bile salts and bile acids and cholesterol, which is composition of the bile, also increase, then we called it cholestasis. So we come to the point now, we are coming to the main point, what is neonatal jaundice and what are the causes. We divides the neonatal jaundice, that is jaundice appearing from 0 days to 28 days of life, in 3 divided form. Then jaundice appearing from 0 to 24 hours, mainly sometimes it may be extend up to 48 hours. So 0 to 24 hours there is another cause, and from 3 days to 10 days we consider other causes. So what happened when jaundice appear in the neonate, which is within 24 hours of age. Within 24 hours of age, mainly jaundice appears in, we know that when there is incompatibility incompatibility, that is Rh incompatibility, ABO incompatibility, minor group incompatibility, and some congenital defects of RBCs, RBC cell membranes or cell enzymes. RBC cell membranes, what can occur? It's one condition we called it congenital spherocytosis. Congenital spherocytosis. What happened to congenital spherocytosis? RBC is biconcave in shape. We know that when it become like this, spherical, so this is not the normal shape of the RBC, so its survival is decreased and it is destroyed in the microcirculation and in the spleen, liver also. So excessive hemolysis occur, bilirubin comes out and unconjugated bilirubin raised to high, so jaundice occur. And another condition is G6PD deficiency. What is G6PD? G6PD deficiency, glucose phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency which remain in the cell membrane of RBC. Another cell membrane enzyme of RBC commonly is pyruvate kinase. So G6PD, when G6PD deficiency occur, then membrane of the RBC again become unstable, so excessive hemolysis occur. So within 24 hours we may consider Rh incompatibility, ABO incompatibility, minor group incompatibility and congenital spherocytosis and G6PD deficiency. Mainly there are also so many causes, so in this level we should know these conditions. Then what happened to when jaundice occur within 3 to 10 days of life? 3 to 10 days of life, and 3 to 10 days of life most common is physiological jaundice. In normal neonate, in normal healthy neonate, 60% of term and 80% of preterm baby develop jaundice. So if their baby is healthy, otherwise healthy, but bilirubin level is raised and feels the other characteristics of physiological jaundice, then we called it physiological. And what are the other characteristics of physiological jaundice? Then one condition, it will appear in second or third day of life, baby will be otherwise healthy, and what other condition should we consider? That it reaches peak, maximum peak to the 5th to 7th day of life and declines 10 days, within 10 days in term baby and within 14 days in preterm baby. So these 10 days and 14 days when exceed in term and preterm respectively, that jaundice remain after 14 days in term baby and 21 days in preterm baby, that is always pathological and that is called prolonged jaundice. So prolonged jaundice may appear from birth or may appear from 3 to 7 days, but it is prolonged, that is beyond 14 days of life. So we called it prolonged jaundice, 14 days of life in term and 21 days in preterm. So we called it prolonged jaundice. Prolonged jaundice er ki karon hote pare? Prolonged jaundice, again we divide into unconjugated and conjugated jaundice. Unconjugated jaundice, prolonged jaundice can occur in breast milk jaundice. breast milk jaundice is another kind of physiological, we can say that when there is babies simply breastfeed excessively, and this jaundice occur and it's automatically resolved. So we call breast milk jaundice. It happens due to some enzyme excessiveness, that is glucuronidase. Then what are the other causes of prolonged jaundice? Sepsis, it is important, very important. It can occur in 3 to 7 days of life and it may be prolonged. In hypothyroidism, there is prolonged jaundice, important, another important cause, hypothyroidism. And infantile pyloric stenosis. So these are the all examples of unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Then comes to the conjugated hyperbilirubinemia, which is prolonged. We divide the conjugated and prolonged hyperbilirubinemia in two parts, that is according to their cause, that is intrahepatic and extrahepatic. By name we can easily understand that intrahepatic means there is problem intrahepatic, that is in the liver, or extrahepatic, that is outside the liver. In liver, intrahepatic conjugated hyperbilirubinemia or conjugated jaundice occur again in sepsis. And neonatal hepatitis syndrome, neonatal hepatitis syndrome. Another cause is idiopathic hepatitis syndrome and some metabolic disorders like Gilbert's, Crigler-Najjar, and they also occur in alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. And these all are intrahepatic. Extrahepatic conjugated jaundice, we can easily understand there is defect in the bile drainage system, that is right and left hepatic duct, common hepatic duct or cystic duct or common bile duct. What can happen here? Biliary, we called it biliary atresia, and choledochal cyst involve gallbladder. Biliary atresia and choledochal cyst, these two causes are commonly seen in children or neonate when there is jaundice. This cause must be evaluated. So now from here we can understand that what is hyperbilirubinemia, what is jaundice, what is conjugated jaundice, and what is unconjugated jaundice, and what are the causes. When a patient come to you, what we will see, then jaundice recognition of jaundice is not enough. Recognition of jaundice is not enough. We should understand what are the causes and what will be the management. So for management we already know the cause. If we know the cause, then we can easily search for the cause, and we go to the for further history examination and investigation. So history should be taken thoroughly about searching about the causes. So what are the history? You can see history from the blood group of the mother, blood group of the infant, we take history, and history of liver disease, history of jaundice in family, history of blood transfusion, so history of passage of meconium in 24 hours, that indicates the hypothyroidism in prolonged jaundice, and history of other causes like any risk factors of sepsis, which is very important. Sepsis, we must take the history about the sepsis, and even if there is any cause of or risk factors of sepsis is there, What kind of risk factors we found in sepsis? We found sepsis in if the baby is premature or low birth weight, or there is foul smelling liquor and asphyxia and prolonged labor, rupture of membrane from artificial feeding. Artificial feeding or prelactial feed may lead to the what? May lead to the sepsis and that cause jaundice. And another cause or risk factors of sepsis, we can say if there is repeated vaginal examination during labor, unhygiene or poor cord care, etc., etc. If we want to treat the baby, we must take thorough history and then go to the clinical examination and to then investigations. So, clinical examination, what will you do in the clinical examination? We already found jaundice. So, there is no fun in telling that we have found jaundice. So, we have to understand what the level is, what the level of jaundice is, that there is a criteria. By seeing that we can understand what the level of jaundice is. And the jaundice from only if the jaundice is only confined to the face or confined to the trunk or confined to the palm and sole. So, we can understand the level. If the jaundice is up to palm and sole, then we can easily say that it is above more than 16 milligram per dl without doing any investigations. So, always there is no need of investigations if we search if there is pathological cause of jaundice. So, physiological jaundice is not always required investigation. If there is pathological jaundice, what we will do commonly? At first, we must do the blood group and RS typing of the infant. We must know blood group and RS typing of the mother and what is the level of bilirubin. These what is the level of serum bilirubin. These 3 tests must be done at first. Then what investigation we will do, it depends on the cause of the jaundice. If it appears in the 24 hours or 4 hours, it appears in 24 hours of life, then we will go for the Coombs test. Coombs test, go for the Coombs test. And what is Coombs test? Coombs test is due to in Coombs test we search the RBC immunoglobulin. So, it may be divided into direct and indirect Coombs test. If indirect Coombs test is positive, we easily understand it is due to hemolysis, due to RH incompatibility, ABO incompatibility and minor group incompatibility. If it is negative, then we go for other investigations like direct bilirubin is raised or not, indirect bilirubin is raised or not, hematocrit, reticulocyte. And so, what we will do? Coombs test, one CBC is needed for level of hemoglobin. Is there is hemolysis, hemoglobin will also reduced, hematocrit level and reticulocytes. Hemoglobin, hematocrit and reticulocytes. Then other investigation we will do to search the cause. If we suspect it is a case of sepsis, then sepsis screening must be done. Sepsis screening. Sepsis screening, we know that what there is other profile we do sepsis in sepsis screening, and finally and most importantly we do what if we suspect if it is hypothyroidism, then what we will do? TSS, T3 and T4. So these are the investigations. If additionally if we suspect it is metabolic disorders, then we will go for the metabolic screening. We know that metabolic screening there is urine sugar and some organic acids, amino acids, etc., etc. So and if we suspect that there is congenital infection like cytomegalovirus, toxoplasmosis, we should do that investigations also. And if there is extrahepatic biliary cause, we should also explore that if it is extrahepatic or if it is biliary atresia or not. So there is so many causes and so many symptoms and so many investigations in hyperbilirubinemia or jaundice we can do. And what are the treatments? To treat a baby, we should also first we should go for decreased bilirubin. We need to lower the level of bilirubin because as it is toxic to the brain. Unconjugated bilirubin, when it is unbound, unconjugated bilirubin passes through the circulation to the brain and it crosses the blood brain barrier, it can cause kernicterus, which is very harmful to newborn baby. So at first we should lower the level of bilirubin. To lower the level of bilirubin, we give them phototherapy and exchange transfusion when there is needed. We know at first go to the phototherapy and exchange transfusion when there is needed. And sometime newer drugs came that is called 10-protoporphyrin. 10-protoporphyrin is given. So at first we decrease the or lower the level of bilirubin, then we search for the cause. When we search for the cause, we search for the cause and treatment of cause. Unless you search for the cause or treat the cause, the jaundice may not be disappear. So searching the cause and treating that is very much important. So this is all for today. Thank you.